Yeah. I don't know.
Is the rod you're using or the guy who's using the rod?
Alright, welcome back everyone. In this video I'm going to go over how to catch fluke from the surf. What I learned from several trips out front is that the technique is quite different than fishing the back bays, inlets, and thoroughfares. I came to really enjoy fishing the surf once I got a grip of a few basic things. Now, what makes it different, especially when using a jig? As most of you know, I fish with the single jig, often ranging from 3/8 ounce to 3/4 ounce depending on the current, depth, and the lure size. When I'm fishing the back bays, as you see in this video, I'm casting my jig either straight out or up current. As I let the jig fall to the bottom, I'm positioning my rod parallel to the surface of the water with a fair amount of slack line. Once I feel the thump of the jig hitting the bottom, I'll start my retrieve by whipping the slack line with the tip of my rod from parallel up to roughly the 1 o'clock position. This whipping action should pop the jig up from the bottom. You can give it 1, 2, or 3 quick pops and then let the jig settle back to the bottom. You can vary the retrieve and the pops until you get hit by a fluke. Now back to the surf. What are the similarities out front versus the back bays, and what makes fishing out front different? When you are working the surf, you're dealing with the uprush of waves and the undertow. You need to be more in tune with how that affects your jig. On this day, I was fishing with a 3/8 ounce jig head and a 5-inch jerk shad. I was casting beyond the surf line, allowing it to sink to the bottom. At the start of the retrieve, there's no difference versus working the back bays, but as the jig gets closer to the surf line, the uprush and the undertow of waves will take over. Most often, fluke will bury themselves under the surf line and wait for an opportunity to ambush. More on this later. So now you know that at the surf zone, there are 2 primary things that will happen. There will be a push or uprush from the waves crashing onto the sand, and then there will be a subsequent pull from the undertow receding back behind the surf break. Your jig will be under the control of these 2 actions. At first, it would appear that there was a lot of chaos, but after a while I began to understand that there is a specific time when a fluke will hit the jig. Remember what I said about fluke waiting for the right opportunity to ambush. That window is at the end of the current receding and the beginning of the next push from a wave. I believe at that very moment, your jig along with everything else in the wash will become suspended for a few seconds. That is where the fluke will pop out from the sand and swipe at anything that's worth taking. As the wave continues its push onto the sand and then the current begins its reverse flow, the fluke will fall back into the sand and wait for the next window. Now, how do you properly fish this window of opportunity? At the start of the cast, I'll work the jig like I would normally, popping it off bottom on slack line and work the retrieve back to the surf zone. When I get to the surf zone, I will slow my retrieve or even stop it to allow the push and pull of the waves to take over. You're waiting for that window when the undertow stops and the push of the next wave begins. You should feel your jig being lifted right off the bottom, and that is when you should get hit by a hungry fluke. Now, the biggest issue I had first was working too heavy of a jig. I started off with a 1/2 ounce jig and realized it was too heavy when it got to the surf zone. It never got off the bottom during that window between the undertow and the start of the push from the next wave. I downsized to 3/8 ounce and immediately I can feel the jig suspend. There are even times when 3/8 ounce is too heavy and you need to size down to 1/4 ounce. Generally speaking, 1/4 ounce works best when conditions are relatively calm, and 3/8 ounce is better for choppier surf. So there are obviously other ways to find fluke in the surf. On this date, I had my girlfriend fishing with a dropper rig with a 1 ounce sinker. With the teaser being weightless, you should be able to get hit in the surf zone without worrying too much about your rig being tossed back and forth with the waves. However, I noticed on this day the single jig method was yielding bigger fish, just like I experienced fishing the back bays. I still think a single jig offers a larger profile to tease a big fluke. Couple of last points. Gulp doesn't necessarily have an advantage over other soft plastics in the surf. I believe fluke out front rely more on their sight than their smell when attacking prey. Final thing is about gear. You need to have a pretty light setup when you're able to fish in this style. When you're fishing with a 1/4 ounce or 3/8 ounce jig, you can get away easily with a freshwater setup. And my cousin will have links to everything I use below. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I'm going to stop talking here and roll the rest of the footage where I had a lot of fun catching shorts and a couple of keepers to round out the day. Yes, sir. Did I keep? That might be. Yeah. Right on the lip. Whew. That's a keeper. Oh, that looks nice. Nice. That's how it's done. It's like this one. I think that might keep. That might keep. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. We can throw that one in the cooler, don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll go get it. Can you take this off?
I'll take it off. You might have to even go down to like quarter ounce jig. I got it. I think that's big, yeah.
Be here all morning.
I think it's probably 18. At least. Yeah. It was when I got it in, right? Yeah. My jig was past. It was past the current. Yeah. So then it started like floating up, and that thing just started hitting it. So it doesn't like it like. It doesn't want like dead thump. It needs a little levitation. That's what it is. Yeah. Yeah. There we go. You got one? Yeah. Came off? I saw it though. Oh, I think it's back on. Yes. Oh. Oh my gosh, I have one right there. Woo. That ain't a baby, but it ain't a daddy either. Somewhere in between. Got it right on the fall. Oh, you got another one. Dang. What the heck? Still there, right?
It jumped off.
It jumped off. We'll come back. Just wait for it. Don't retrieve. Oh, yeah. Dang. Yeah, man. Nice, dude. What's that, 16? 17? 16 probably. Ooh, it's fat. I got it. Look at that. Look at that.
Wow.
Oh, you know, like the one way to handle this fish, if you hold it, they're dormant. Yeah, they don't see it, and they just curl up. Like you can unhook it, and they don't. But if you flip it like this, they freak out. Yeah, they freak out. Yeah. Nice, man. Dude, you want to catch 19? That's what you want. To the gills. Woo! All right, buddy. Bye.
That was on a 1/4 ounce.
That was on a 1/4 ounce, yeah. And again, right when jig was just like lifting, and then you know when the waves come,
like, it's floating with the wave.
yeah, and then like it just like that, yeah.
That's the best natural presentation.
Yeah, that is. Go. Let's go. Is it getting closer? Maybe. Oh no, it's definitely not big enough. No. It's nice. It is nice. Yeah, so right here, I'm right down the bottom.
Got fast already on the bottom?
Yeah. Because I know it's only like probably 6 feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I actually, I keep the rod tip high,
Right.
so I let it sink a little slower.
Yeah, so it kind of floats.
Yeah, it floats a little bit. The jerk shad, they sink real fast. If I was using a grub, I'll let it fall maybe on the slat.
I don't know how deep it is out there.
Probably right by the lip, it's only 2 to 3 feet, and then further out, like probably 20 feet out, it's still like about 5 feet, up to 5. When I was swimming out there, I was still like standing above the water. Oh yeah, I think this is a keeper. Boom, son. Oh yes, right there, right on the freaking thing. Oh my god. Yeah, that's cute. That might be bigger than the first one.
I like the color.
Yeah. Oh.
Right at the lip.
Yeah, right at the lip. I bet this is like closer to 19. No, it's 18. 18.
Perfect.
Perfect. Actually, no. You know what? We'll take both of them back. Yeah. My aunt wants it. Oh, it's gone. Yeah. It's meant to be. It's meant to be.